Are you the type of people that have bought books in another language and start to read it and feel like lost? Or maybe you start reading it and because you couldn't understand anything, you just drop it. Or maybe you just can't find any books to read. If you're using the immersion method, the best way for you to progress is to read books. Why? Because once you read full books, this is how you get into the habit of building long-term vocabulary, but also a wider range of vocab. So if you're in a plateau and you don't know where to start, you don't know which book to pick, and whenever you pick a book, it's the wrong book and you end up not reading it, this video is for you. Here, we're talking language learning, creativity, and slow productivity tips. On today's video, because I'm in Buenos Aires, I wanted to talk about books, and specifically, I've made a video recently on how reading is important. I've made a video before on reading and basically what are the benefits of reading for language learning. I'm someone that have learned a lot via immersion. That includes as well reading. I have myself learned a lot of my language. I've improved through reading and reading a bit of everything. So if you haven't seen the video, I really recommend you to go watch it after this one, because in that video I talk about how to read little things here and there. But on this video, I want to talk about reading actual books. Yes, sometimes it's good to read actual books, and I think that's how you progress, because you widen your vocabulary range and you're able to switch off and switch on your target language brain. And that's very important, because then you immerse yourself in the story and you'll learn a lot of things because you create memory. The first thing I wanted to say is do not read children books. It's a whole debate. Some people recommend reading children books, some people don't. I am of the team of don't. First of all, because you will feel like it's a few pages, let's say 20 pages, and then you have 20 sentences. Why would you ever buy this, or why would you rent it from a library, right? You can just browse through it or read an article that is for kids. So you have those things as well. You have newspaper online. They are written for younger children or teenagers. So I really don't recommend going for the children books. You get bored. And sometimes children books are actually strange. Like I've tried Korean children books, and those are about tales. I think it's very interesting to read about those, but actually when you have a better level, because it also implies fictional, fantastic creatures, and that's something that you might not understand at the beginning. So now that we've tackled what to not do, how are you gonna pick the right book? Before picking the right book, I would say evaluate your level. I recommend reading normal books when you are at B1 level, depending on the language. Certain language I would recommend B2 level, and I think you should start from the beginning, like I said, A1, A2, with text from textbook or very simple readings, and then from the A2 to B1 you can do a graded reading, which I think is a really great way to boost your language learning skills. At some point, if you start to get bored, I recommend switching to actual books. Evaluate your level, know where you are. Is it time to pick a normal book? Yes or no? I personally use books to maintain, but also to kick the plateau, right? At the B2 level, that's when you want to kick it, right? So I'm doing that with Spanish. And the first things that you should check when you are picking your books is whether you're gonna go fiction or non-fiction. That has a small impact in the sense of that's just depending on what type of reader you are. I am usually a non-fiction reader, but I do take also fictions, especially when I read in another language. So once you've picked also the field, you have to, within this, can be mindful and you may or may not, but you may exclude certain field, certain genre. I don't remember how to say that. Genre. Certain style, certain field. For example, fiction or books on war and those are or medical books. Those are a little bit more difficult, whether they're on fiction or non-fiction. If you take non-fiction and you do historical book, that's fine. But then if you start to talk about sure like historical architecture, that might get a little bit quite intense, because I don't know if you describe the Notre Dame, the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. I don't even know what you call those little decoration or like gargouille. I don't know how you call those things to explain, to describe it. Definitely pick exactly the style that you want, or at least a few field that you will be comfortable with, something that would be quite easy. Then once you know more or less, okay, maybe I like romantic comedy, I like historical biography, I like maybe books on art. That when you have those, then you browse and you start to check, okay, I have a book here, for example. This is the new book that I bought. And the book is a real story from a Mexican family that goes to the US, and then the children stay behind. And it's basically going through the story of children. I think that book is very emotional, and yeah, it's a book that I want to read. So it's something that I'm very interested in reading. So it's either you pick something you like, or very interested in reading. So then you stay motivated. You're not only reading for the purpose of improving. You're actually reading for the pleasure of discovering a story. Another things that you can do is you can read a book that you already read in your own language or in another language. That help you because you know already the story. It's much easier to digest, and if you don't necessarily understand everything, you will still be able to understand the whole story because you've read it already. I have, for example, here a book on art and history of Florence, and I think that's really great because that will teach me about architecture, but art as well in a city, and it has pictures, really, really nice. So it take two goals at the same time. If I want to visit Florence, for example, which I've never been to, and that's something I would love to, by reading this, I am improving naturally my Spanish, because this one is in Spanish, so my language, but also I'm learning about something that would be useful to me. There is something else, for example, like this is Chocolate Caliente para el Alma and De las Madres. So when I picked it up, okay, Chocolate. And that's a book that is here in the flat I am renting. But then I realized, it's a really nice book, but it's for mothers. And because I'm not a mother, I think I would relate a little bit less. I might not get everything that this book has to offer. I really recommend taking a book that you want to read, not just for the sake of reading it, but read a book you want to discover or something you want to learn about. And one of the small tips that I recommend when you're in the library or when you're picking a book at the bookstore, take 5 pages at different places in the book, different, like the beginning, 2 in the middle, 2 at the end, and skim through it, and just by hindsight, do you think you understand 20, 30, 60, 70, 80%, right? I don't recommend a book that you understand 90% if your main goal is to improve your language. If it's just to read, that's fine. But I really think 60 to 80% understanding is a very good range, because that's the place where you would feel confident enough to continue, but that's also where you would have to improve and you will get the most out of it. So that's for today's video. I recommend watching as well the video on reading, and I also would maybe share a video on immersion and how active input, including reading, is essential in immersion language learning. So I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!